Good morning and welcome to the Institute of Sacred Evolution.
Just move over here.
That's okay. We're going to open with a prayer, so we ask that you find that quiet place within inside of yourself. And say, peace, be still. Be still and affirm your oneness with all of creation, for you are who we have been waiting for. We invoke our guides, guards, ancestors, and the ancient ones to come near, to share with us, to sup with us, to love with us. As we allow ourselves to be open and receptive to the rhythm of this universe at this sacred time, let the healing flow, let the unconditional love be felt. And for this time that we spend together in oneness and harmony, we say Ashe,
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 Ashe of.
Ashe.
So it is. Well, good morning, and I had something else scheduled today, but Spirit said, let's do this a little bit differently. This is the solstice, and I guess all of you know what the solstice is and what that means. And universal time, the solstice arrive at 23:03. So you say, oh, what is universal time? So wherever your time, well, for this time zone, I guess you would subtract 4 hours. So I think that's about 8 something tonight, p.m.
Yeah.
Or thereabouts, right? 8:36, 8:03. Yeah. So that's at the specific time of the solstice, when this becomes the shortest day of the year. That's probably somebody downstairs. So, and then we have the new moon that's coming up. So at the new moon, there's a lot of new energy here. There's a lot of things available for you. If you understand the rhythm of this, then you can take full utilization of this new moon. Well, this is something that we used to do back in the day, and I was meant to share it with you. And what you'll do at the new moon is to write yourself a check. All right? And you'll make this check out to any amount that you desire, or you can just say paid in full. A lot of times they would just write paid in full on the check. Okay, so you have your name and address. I made a sound. Why am I doing that? So I made mine out for the ISE. So this would be your check, whatever check you have, even if it's an old check and you no longer use that checking account. So your name would be up here. Do not put a date. Let the universe put the date in for you when you are to receive your money, because you may say tomorrow, but you may not be ready to receive it tomorrow, because certain things have to happen for you to be able to receive that money. Okay, then where it says pay to the order of, you're going to put your name. You're going to put your name. I put ISE, you put your name there. I said 30 million. Okay? So then you'll say paid in full, write out the 30 million, just like you do on your check, and then it's signed by the law of abundance. Yeah. Well, I put law of the universe, but it's law of abundance of the universe. Okay, or just law of abundance. You put this check someplace that you consider sacred in your house. Some people may want to put it in their Bible, some people want to put it on their altar. Whatever place that you deem sacred, it may be a book that you have at home that you always read or refer to. You may want to put it in your spell book if you have one, or your grimoires if you have one of those. So someplace where you feel is sacred. And then just see what happens. And you can do this each time of the new moon, and the fruition should come at the full, sometime in the full moon, whenever you are ready.
Okay.
So that's what I had to share with you guys today. And I'm going to let either David or Shep talk to you about the actual new moon or the solstice. And this is an impromptu thing because Spirit just said, you know, do a group thing. Don't just have one person say something, because David comes from one aspect, Shep comes from another aspect. I come from the spell casting aspect. I love it.
Yes.
You know, pulling down that energy and making things happen as a female, as only, I should say, as a female can. Not that men can't, but they can't do it like we do. And we can't do it like they do. You understand? But when you start understanding who and what you are, all aspects of yourself starts falling into place. And when we do that, when we really are doing that, and we're not afraid that you're going to think I'm funny if I do this because that's who I am. I'm not going to think you funny because that's what you do because that's who you are. And we stand firm in our place of who we are, things are going to change. But not until the individual changes. And that's where that change is going to come from. Us marching, that's wonderful. Some people, some people need to do that because of where they are in their development. They need to be there. They need to be that, what do you call it, lightning rod. I love rituals. Burning candles, standing out in the backyard, putting my feet in the ground, feeling that energy raise up into my loins and up and out into the universe. That's me. Having my crystals there, standing in my stance. So, wherever you are, let that so shine. So I'm going to say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
You know we got it.
Okay, they got it. All right, they must have talked.
Right.
All right, so whoever is it.
I am it. I am it.
That was good. That was good. That was good. I am
Spirit is
it.
always good.
Yes.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love it. I love it. The trifactor today. You guys, the trifactor. All in one day. That's right. And as she said, she comes from the standpoint of the new moon. Rituals, casting spells, things like that. What I enjoy about the new moon from my perspective, of my lane, is that it gives me an opportunity to actually plant the seeds of my own being, to cultivate within my spirit certain aspects of which it manifests at the time of the full moon. You see what I'm saying? Right. Because we all know the new moon, for the most part, is that time of planting, planting seeds, which you want to manifest at a future day and time. Right? So what I do from the Kemetic perspective, as I am a student of the Kemetic tree of life, that is my story, my lifestyle, okay? And every month, there's a new moon and full moon. So what I do is I look at what attribute the full moon is gonna portray, okay? Meaning, based upon my energy, okay, the energy that the moon is gonna be exerting at that time of the full moon, okay? What is it that I can grab from this energy and use for myself, right? Okay, and so it just so happens this full moon is going to be in the energy personification of the deity called Aset. Aset. Okay, so this full moon in January will be the full moon energy of Aset, right? And so, how do I use Aset's energy, the full moon, now the new moon? Very simple. The new moon, again, is a time of planting seeds. Okay, what you want to have in your intentions. So again, it's a time for me to go inside and plant within my spirit the attributes of the deity of the wonderful goddess Aset. Okay, and just to not be a few things what we know about Aset. Okay, this beautiful divine being. I like the story of the Osirian resurrection. Okay, because she's a key player in that story. Okay. Why is she a key player? Because she's the feminine energy, okay, or the feminine energy of creation, okay. As we know, we come to the realization as we grow up in our maturity, spiritual awareness that, we're taught that God is a man, God the Father, God the Father, whereas in reality, he's neither male nor female. It's energy. However, if you would to choose an attribute to assign to source, you would have to assign the attribute of feminine, because it's like the egg from which gives birth to everything, to the entire manifest universe. Right? Okay? That's that Aset energy, baby. It gives birth, Aset, the divine being. And so how the story of the Osirian resurrection play out is that the story goes is that Osir, okay, was the first king of Egypt, Kemet, ancient Kemet. Okay, he was manifested as God because he put it down. He unified Upper Kemet and Lower Kemet, brought them together. Boom, Osir was the man. Agriculture, the Garden of Eden for our people, for the most part. You know, however, Osir had an evil twin brother. We call him evil because he was just the opposite. That's all we say. Not good or bad, but if you want to call this something, just call it evil, which his name was Set, which we get Satan from. And so what Set did, Set was kind of jealous that, you know, I could do what he does, who think he is, right? You know, oh man. You know, but Osir was like, you know, he was like, man, whatever. Kept doing his thing. So that jealousy rose up and Set was like, man, I need to take him out. So he devised a plan, got rid of him, right? So that, you know, and Osat, right, which is Osir's wife and sister, okay? You know, it's all the same, the relationship, okay? So what happens is, Osat was like, oh man, Cat slew Osat, the god, you know, so what I'm gonna do? That's all right, you know, and when he killed him, right, he dismembered him. Oh, yeah. He dismembered, cut the pieces up, right? And so what happened, she went on a search party, you know, got some kids on a search party, kind of like the Easter egg hunt, you know. So all these stories from Christianity comes back to our stories as well, right? So she's looking for his pieces, you know, dismembered pieces. So she found all the pieces, put them all back together except for one piece. His phallus, the private parts, his reproductive parts, right? And so there's also a separate story called the Sorrows of Osset. And the Sorrows of Osset seem to put her devotion to Osir is so strong, right, that she wept, her, you know, over his body. She got over his body, wept, you know, and that energy was so strong, that feminine energy was so strong, she became impregnated with the seed and with the phallus wasn't there. Okay, so it was like, we call it immaculate conception. You know, remember that story, immaculate conception. So she gave birth to a son which is called Haru. And the story is she taught Haru, right? Okay, Haru, this is what happened. You know, Seth did this. You know, your uncle, right? Your uncle, man. You know, watch out for this cat. You know, this is what he did. So as young Haru wants to avenge his father, being taught by all Set, the mother, the feminine principle, right? So you know, the story goes on. He grows up, and naturally they go back for a long time. The short of the story is Haru does not kill Seth, but he's more so subdues Seth. He gets Seth under control. He controls Satan. As I said, it's not really good or bad, even though we call Satan bad or evil. It's not in the sense of, oh no, that's not the Lord self. Right, exactly. And that's what Osset, the divine mother, told the son Haru, that Satan is nothing but your lower self. And you can't kill a part of yourself, because then you would die too. And that is not right. So what you do is you cultivate your lower self. You work with your lower self to get it in line and balance so it's in line with your higher self. So the lower self is a reflection of the higher self. So then you say, I and my Father one. Because my personality, my human nature, is my will is now aligned with my Father's will, so we are one now. Okay? And this is just more or less the process we call personal growth and self-development at its essence. You know, self-realization, becoming Christ conscious, divine being, Buddha conscious, all the same thing, right? And so that story of Osir, the Osirian resurrection, is a short story to say how there's nothing good or bad. It's what you go do to cultivate that within yourself so that you be the hero and become Osir. You know, go rule the son, be like his father, become Osir. Which again, Osir has restored peace, harmony, and balance within the world by bringing forth Osir once again, by giving birth to the son, teaching the son grows up to once again be heard by her side. Which is what Reverend Rita always talks about all the time. You know, she's the mother of creation, she's the mother of all of us, even though we're not biologically, but because of her feminine energy manifests as Osset. She's teaching all of us and who we are, right? And how we can cultivate our lower self so that we can realize our full divine being, right? So this is, again, and I told this story of the tree of life. She's Osset in my life because it just fits just like that. It's like, oh, Osset. Right, okay, wow, good thing, right? And so that's one aspect of Osset, right? That mothering aspect, that nurturing aspect, the bring forth creation aspect of Osset, right? Now, we want to take it just a little bit more personal with the attributes of Osset, okay? From the teaching standpoint, again, she teaches. So within our beings, there's an aspect of learning, right? Which is that Osset faculty. As a baby, the first thing we do is we learn by watching, mimicking, okay? That's an Osset faculty, okay? Memory, you know, we memorize things as an Osset faculty, Okay, now moving on up to where we are, it's a little bit of adults, because, these are things that we want to instill in the youth coming up. But more importantly, with the youth, as with ourselves, comes offset with devotion. Okay, meaning who do you look up to? As children, it's like, okay, who's my hero? Who do I want to be when I grow up? Who do I want to be like? And usually it's our parents, mother, father, guardian, who's ever taking care of us. They're our first like role models. Then as we grow up and expand, get that thinking going a little bit, we get a little bit more awareness of what's happening in the world. We may branch out to other, heroes, as so to say, or sheroes, right? Who do I identify with? But more importantly, who do I identify with? Meaning, that's who I want to be like when I grow up. That's who I see, I want to mirror myself after. And coming back to the story of Osiris and resurrection, Osiris' devotion was to Osiris. So much that once he was out the way, I'm going to create another son. Boom, Osiris once again, resurrecting Osiris, right? And so for me, as a student of the Commanded Tree of Life, I'm devoted to resurrecting Osiris within my being. So I take this time at the new moon to meditate on how can I resurrect Osiris within my being? Or just simply put, I am devoted to resurrecting Osiris within my being, right? Because as I'm learning that, even just by saying that simple statement of, I am cultivating, I am, devoted to becoming Osiris, my spirit is gonna begin to do the work. I just make the declaration because I am not my energy. What I do is I use the energy, program the energy to say, hey, do this, do that for me, right? This is what I will to be done. By programming that energy, again, planting that seed within that energy, and then the energy do the work, right? You just line it up, right, without brain and masculine feminine principles, right? Again, so as I say, okay, the full moon is coming up, so this evening I'll be meditating on Lord within my being of resurrecting Osiris, just playing within my being, resurrecting Osiris, the devotion. There's also a nurturing aspect to Offset. Again, she's the nurturer. She taught Osiris. Okay, she taught Haru. And so within all of our beings, specifically me, we're talking about this is my story, is I need to also cultivate that more nurturing aspect within my being. It's a feminine energy, feminine principle. However, it is within me as well. As I look to resurrect Osiris, which means I must cultivate all the energetic properties that's manifest in the universe. And what I mean by cultivate all the energetic properties? Simply the 7 days of the week. Like the 7 chakras, 7 days of the week, the 7 planetary energies. Right, exactly. It's within us. So as I cultivate that particular chakra, that particular vibratory frequency within my being, then I'm doing each one when that energy is present, is available at its most heightened time, which is again at the full moon time. Okay, so when the full moon is coming about, by the new moon planting intent within my being, okay, all set. Okay, first chakra, root chakra, okay, that connects me to this physical world, food, clothing, and shelter, my basic necessities. Okay, that's what Offset is all about, taking care of the basic needs here on earth. Again, nurturing, taking care of, are your needs met? Okay, food, clothing, shelter, right? Again, so I just go within my being and plant and pregnant my being with the aspect of, okay, full moon, I'm planting some seeds now, so the energies come about that is like automatic, okay, it's doing the work. So every month, right, as I cultivate a different aspect of that within my being, I'm getting the totality of the energetic principles cultivated, which means that my growth is a holistic growth. Because as I mentioned, I'm talking about the personality traits. You crack that door, I'm getting the echo in here, the feedback. I don't want to get too much feedback from recording, the reverb in the room. Okay, thank you for that. But again, as I'm saying, every month there's an opportunity to cultivate that. Okay, every last single month, and something different every last single month. Okay, right. And the offset is the foundation, because even from the standpoint of initiation, because if you're a true student and follow the lifestyle, it is an initiation. And besides Geb, which is on this physical plane, which is getting enough sleep,
making sure what food goes into your body is in harmony and balance, you know, things like that, protecting your life force. The very next stage is the ascent stage. Again, that's how crucial ascent is, because ascent deals with, again, who do you identify with, right? And when you identify with your higher self, you know, resurrecting God, becoming your self-realization, these things like that, then it sets your perspective on life a little bit differently. Whereas if you identify with, I'm only human, that's just me, okay? Even with, if you get locked into a particular sign and say, well, because I'm this sign, I'm this way, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you know that you're actually limiting yourself, you know, versus talking about, well, this is this energetic property based upon my entire chart, you know, which is what David does. He gives you the total perspective, which is why I love talking to the brother, because it's not like just, you get everything, the whole kit and caboodle, okay, which is who we are, we're everything. So if you identify with only a certain sign, you lock yourself into that and you're limited, okay, which means you're setting yourself up to come back another lifetime, really, in essence. Because up here, it's for sacred evolution. We're talking about evolving sacredly. We're talking about, at some point, we're going to be like, it's time to go home and not come back no more unless I want to come back. That type of thing, right? So when we speak, you know, we come up with that as a foundation, right? Okay. So, as we were saying, just as, you know, people still continue to come in. Right, just talking about the new moon and its influence. Well, not the new moon, but how can we use this new moon? Okay, and again, Reverend Narita spoke about writing a blank check. Not a blank check, writing the amount in the check, which you should back over that. And I'm simply speaking upon the energy of the full moon that's coming up. You know, it's sowing time. You know, sowing and reaping. If we simply plant certain seeds within our spirit at this time, we can reap certain benefits. And I'm speaking more on plant within our being, who do I identify with? Who am I? Really, when it comes down to who am I? You know, do I associate with, I work at a government job and I do this and then I do that. Or, you know, I say, well, I'm a divine being. I'm just having these, around here doing this experience, having these experiences, you know, as I continue to grow and evolve and go back home. You know, again, who do you identify with? And our set is that energy of who do I identify with? Who am I? And again, who you are sets yourself up by seeing things in the worldly, all of your experiences, as being the victim or being, you know, the victor. Meaning, oh wow, why did this happen to me? Or, oh cool, look at that. I learned something from this, which means it's great. So I'm gonna take this, apply this, and keep on evolving. So again, who am I? Who do I associate with? Is one of the main opponents of our set. Okay? And once you identify with yourself, you also use that set energy to nurture yourself. You say, I know who I am now. Now it's time to love me, like me. So I'm using that feminine energy of our set to just love me. Right? And again, this is just coming back to, you know, just sharing some principles of our set, that feminine energy, the energy of creation, and how we use that feminine energy to cultivate within our being certain aspects so we can ascend towards our most divine and supreme being. Right? Okay? And I'm going to be, one more thing I want to speak about this as I make way for David, is that, as she said, this is the new moon and the winter solstice on the same day. Same day, man. Same time. Same time. You know, and around the same hour, because the new moon is, you know, happening in the evening. So what we're saying is that the winter solstice is also that time of plant within our being certain aspects we wish to, you know, cultivate over the next solar year. Okay, because it's like we say, we plant now for the full moon, you know, but the solstice we plant now for the next summer solstice, which is like the full moon. But it's the solar calendar. You know, you gotta know how to use it. The solar, the sun, and the moon. You know what I'm saying? You have calendars that represent the sun and the moon cycles, and we know about these things. So how can we use the sun cycle and the moon cycle to cultivate in our being? And so what I'm speaking on now is quite general, because we can actually go down to a daily cycle as well. You know, because these principles play out hourly, you know, daily, monthly, weekly, the whole nine. But just two things I'm focused on today, on the new moon and the full moon again, the new moon and the solstice, is that the new moon, we plant the seeds of what we want to happen around the full moon time, you know what I'm saying, which is about, 2 weeks, right? Okay. And at the same time, knowing this is the solstice, we can also venture out a little bit beyond that, and not necessarily count it not being like the attributes of our set for the full moon, but just simply whatever it is we wish to bring forth from heaven to earth into manifestation, which could be something cultivated within our being, like certain attributes, how I see myself, how I wish to be, which is again an attribute of all set. So if that's the case, you just, it's like a whale. You at the abyss, you at the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean, you know what I'm saying, and there's feminine energy to cultivate within your being, if that's what you're doing with it. Cultivating, how do I see myself? How am I going to grow? Who am I going to be manifested in next summer? You have the full moon and the solstice. Oh, baby, you're hitting it. But again, even without that, again, just a general idea, whether it's something material you wish to manifest, or whatever it is, as gods and divine beings you wish to create, now's the time to kind of plant within your being the seeds for that, because it's the winter solstice. Right. And so as I close out, you got some, 3 different kind of tools, suggestions, tips, to use, because here at the Institute for Sacred Evolution, we need to give you something to walk away with, something to choose from, something that works with you. Because not everything is going to work for everybody. There's not one single silver bullet. Okay. And so, as she presents from, like she said, the spell side, you know what I'm saying, whoop, doing that thing, we're going to from that way. And then I present from the comedic tree of life aspect, and just saying, okay, I know who I am from that, from the planetary energy aspect. And our brother David comes from the astrology, cosmology aspect. So, as he prepares for that, I don't ask any questions so far about what I spoke about as far as the new moon, full moon, our set, briefly on the winter solstice and how we can actually use it this time of the year, this day, this evening in particular, and say, what do I wish to do? How do I wish to spend this time this evening? Or maybe the next 2 to 3 days. Okay. So just throwing some things out there to think about, give you an option to say, I can choose to cover some things that are going to benefit me, or, do whatever. Because everything's always a choice up here. Always a choice. And we love it either way. Any questions about anything?
It's all the questions until after things.
All right, cool.
All right.
Astrology, astrosophy, study of the planets and the cycles, the sun and the moon, the stars, and all of that. Astrosophy is the understanding, the wisdom of all of that study. Today, we have the winter solstice coming, also have the new moon. In astrology, we usually ask 4 basic questions, and that's how I learned astrology, just based around those 4 basic questions. First question is, defines what you're dealing with. You ask, what? What is this? What is going on? In our time on this planet, we've been conditioned to ask the second question first a lot of times. Usually when you get into a conversation with people, they say, well, how do you do that? And when they're talking to me, I like to challenge people, and I say, think about what you're saying. You want to know how to do something. But are you sure that you know what it is that you're talking about? How do you do something that you don't know what you're talking about? Then they look at me and say, Third question in astrology, and it happens to be, the first question is your ascendant sign. Second question is at the bottom of the chart, the 4th house. That's the how. It always comes afterward. And then what direction are you going in? Where are you going? Where to? You know where you started, in the east. Where are you going is over to the west. That's your partner. People get confused. They say the 7th house is your partner, and it does contain some of those descriptive adjectives that probably define who it is that you're attracted to. But more than your partner, the 7th house really describes your partnership. Your partnership is actually an entity. It's different than both individuals. And so when you look at things And we're borrowing from, a couple of weeks ago, Elocution spoke with us, and he talked about words. Talked about they were symbols. Numbers are symbols, pictures are symbols, the planets are symbols, the signs are symbols. What is truth? I'll say something and somebody will say, well, I see it differently. Well, I'll say, that's my truth. You have your own truth. I'm not going to argue with you about it. You can keep it. You can share it with me. I'd like to hear about it. I said, but we're not having an argument. We're not even having a debate. We're just having a discussion. That's what we do up here at the Institute. We like to share information. We drop some things to you, and if you can use it, go with our blessings and peace. If you can't use it, just toss it in the trash. You don't need to carry it around. It's extra weight for you. But we're talking about the winter solstice. Capricorn. That's where the sun and the moon are going to join together. In astrology, we call that a conjunction. Once upon a time, a very long time ago, the moon used to be part of the earth. That's some information that you can do research on because the scientists are starting to pick up on it. Even before that time, the sun was part of the earth. And so the sun, moon, and earth were all in one place. As time went by, and it's kind of in parallel to the story that a chef gave us, there's a separation that took place. And the first thing that left was the sun, because its vibration was too high for man to exist in that environment. Hundreds of thousands of years passed, and the moon left, because its vibration was so low that it would calcify everything that was on it. And that's when the story that people know as the creation in the beginning came about. And Earth became a crystallized, mineralized place. And mankind came down into that same form to live on this planet. But man always existed in the spirit. This seems to be a thing that people have forgotten, or either it's uncomfortable for them to think about it. What is man? The chef talked on that. It's the spirit, consciousness, all of that. And I'm asking you, what is that? Before you can answer that, I'm going to ask you another question. Because this conversation is really about paying attention. What is paying attention? What gets your attention in the conversation? What is it that has your attention? Because only you can direct it. I heard a little talk on what is that? TED Talks, and this guy was saying he thinks of consciousness as a little man in your head that sits at a technological desk. And he's looking out, he can see everything. He has little earphones, he can hear everything going on. And so he's focused on different things and everything that's happening in front of him. The guy that was giving the talk happened to be a pickpocket. And he said, this is how he does his shopping tours. He said, he goes to a person and he engages that little guy in his head. And he starts talking to him, he starts asking him questions to get his attention. Once he has his attention, then he can do whatever he wants, because he has the man's attention. Same thing with a conversation that you have with anybody. If you don't get their attention, they're not going to hear anything that you're saying, even though they come there to listen, so they think. A lot of stuff that you say goes right by them. And that's not a bad thing. They can't use that information anyway. So let it go on by. But each of you are ministers, whether you realize it or not. Just coming up here, you're taking on the mantle of being a minister to take the information out into the world and share it with people to help make their life a little bit manageable. Coming back to the new moon in Capricorn. Capricorn is all about managing situations. No matter what it is, no matter how tough it is, they said this needs to get done whether I like it or not. Man has got into a situation today that if it doesn't feel good, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. The new age is it's interesting, people talk about the New Age this, the New Age that. Actually, a young man thought up that term back in the early 1900s, maybe 1899. He started talking about the New Age, but people didn't know what he was talking about. Now, today, 1970, 1990, 2000, people talking about law of attraction. What is it that you want? You can bring it to you. You can make it come to you just by focusing on it and being happy. And I say, well, being happy, what is that? What is that, being happy? Pay attention to it. Take care how you hear it. Because being happy means that you can't ever have those opposing moments. As the shepherd's giving us an example of, he says, you have two poles. Just because one is on one side and the other is on the other, you can't say this is bad and this is good. So what is happiness and unhappiness? It's your choice. And this is another one of the gifts that we have. Free will. You have a choice to do what you want to do. The catch-22 to doing what you want to do is that you have to fall out of line with who you are to get free. Because if you stay in the spirit, there's only one thing that you can do. Because the spirit is one. It doesn't have the contradiction. It doesn't have the duality. It's always focused on the one. It's always doing the one, period. So if you want to do something different, you got to get out of line with that. Catch-22 to that. When you get out of line with the spirit, the ride's going to get bumpy. Because you've never been there before, you don't know what to expect. You don't even think about those things, so you don't pay attention to it. That's the idea of the experiment. Just last night I was doing readings over at Catholic University and over at Dynamic Wellness. So the people that I did the experiment, I don't want you to come up. I just need one volunteer from the people that are here to show everybody a little bit about attention and what we do and how we place our attention on things. Thank you, come on, step right up. They said that. This is quarter. See the quarter? I'm going to place this quarter in your hand. You feel that? Everybody sees it? All right, close your hand. Now, I want to take this quarter out of your hand. But you're not going to let me take the quarter out of your hand, right?
I don't know, do you want me to do you want? What do you want me to do?
I'm just asking you a question. I'm saying I don't want you to let me take the quarter out of your hand.
Yeah, I don't want you to.
Right. So you're not going to let me. So squeeze it. I want to make sure it's still in there. Is it tight? Can you feel it? Feel it well? Yeah. All right. Okay, now open up your hand.
That made you feel gullible, didn't it?
That's a nice condition. That is the human condition, because we do not pay attention to what we first set up. And when you don't, and somebody comes along and takes stuff from you, or you think they're taking stuff from you, they didn't take nothing from you. You gave it to them. So you can't blame them for you giving them something.
That's what the devil did.
That's his job. He said, you're supposed to do your job. He's doing his job. He said, our job is to become aware, to pay attention, so we don't get into situations like that. Because when you don't pay attention, you're going to get into situations like that, because there are a lot of entities out there, as well as other human beings, that are in that track. And it's their job to see if you're paying attention or not. If you're going to attain that state of consciousness that the chef was talking about, you can't get there without paying attention. Paying attention is a very subtle thing, as you saw. Some of the people I did the exercise with the other day over at Catholic University, they were telling me, well, you asked me to open up my hand. I said, what does that have to do with the contract that we made on First Street? Now they're going to give me reasons for that. So they're complicating the situation even further. And it's not about me. I don't care. I got the quarter. I said, you're now having a conversation with yourself because I'm not involved in that. And this is what we do with each other all the time. So paying attention. Sun and moon in Capricorn. Learning how to manage a situation. First thing, you have to know what you're doing, what you're dealing with. And you have to pay attention. Because if you don't pay attention, how can you be aware? How can you call yourself conscious? When you're aware of things, then you're attentive to whatever's going on around. You could be having a conversation with somebody calls your name, you'll hear it. Because you're paying attention. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. This is a very interesting solstice time. Talking about time, I guess we might get into what time is. But the main subject is, the ruler is in Scorpio, the deepest, darkest sign there is. It's all about mystery, it's all about passion, all about darkness. And it's in the very last degree of Scorpio, so it's getting ready to leave. It's been there for 3 years. And Scorpios particularly have been going through it for the last 3 years. Because their lesson is to learn all about what mystery, darkness, passion, and all those things are about. If you have any Scorpio planets, you're in line with the same lesson. You have to pay attention to learn what's going on. It doesn't feel good. And back to our law of attraction and all those people who want to be happy all the time. I say, what happens if you don't feel good and situations start happening to you? What do you do to get to that place that you said you wanted to be happy about? Because you're not paying attention to it. Obviously, because you're not feeling good. So you have to start asking yourself some questions. You have to have some conversations, but most of us don't have those conversations with ourselves. So we find somebody else to talk to. That's an interesting conversation because the other person is not interested in what you're saying. He's looking to see what he can get you to give him. Because everybody wants to give away something because they want something. And this is part of paying attention. And that's what this Capricorn conjunction, new moon, solstice time is. It's like you're looking down into a deep, dark well. And you can't see what's down there. But you need what's down at the bottom of that well. How are you going to get it up? Brother Yeshua had a conversation with a woman once at a well. When he came over to her, she asked him, why are you even talking to me? He said, you're not like us, we're Samaritans. We ain't got nothing to do with you. The divisions that we set up, those separations, those polarities that the chef was talking about. You want to get to your higher consciousness and you want to dish your lower consciousness. How does that work? You're only one. Everything is one. Back to the freedom though. You want to get free, so now you had to separate from your oneness, your calmness and accepting everything that there is, saying yes to everything that comes to you, everything that comes to you, no matter how it felt, to get into duality that I don't like this, so I'm not going to do it. Or if I do it, I'm not going to do it well, so then nobody will ask me to do it again. What's going on? These are the things that we're doing to ourselves. Astrology has a story that goes along with a ship's story. When that guy got cut in 14 pieces. And his wife's sister went out looking for him and she found all those 14 pieces. We see that as another phase of the moon. Those are the phases of the moon between the new moon and the full moon. It's 14 days. And we can define those things by the signs that the moon goes through. And we put them back together and we have the whole thing. Every person that comes to the planet is made up of spirit first, before it mineralizes into what you see sitting before you today. Everybody has every planet in them. Everybody has the sun and the moon. Everybody has every single sign. And when we get down to the part where people say, well, I don't like this and I don't like that, they're talking about themselves. because they have everything in them. I don't get along with Scorpios. Well, that's part of you. So why are you dissing that part of you? Because they got a reason. And it's a long list. You might fall asleep listening to them. Because you already know that you do the same thing. And nobody's excluded from it. Finding out about liars. What are liars? The person sitting to the left of you is a liar. The person sitting to the right of you is a liar. The person sitting in your chair is a liar. All of us lie every day. No exception. What's that about? Because if you talk to somebody, I tell the truth. They've already started with you right there. What is that about? They're not dualistic, they're not human. They do everything as it comes to them, they don't feel bad. These are choices you make in your freedom. The Great Spirit, the Great Father, indigenous people call him, whatever name you want to call him, he wanted you to be free, so he gave you the ability to have choice. He would that you would choose to be in the Spirit. But once you choose to be in the Spirit, it's different than just being in it. Because when you're just in it, it's like a fish in water. You don't pay attention to the water. Or like us in the air, we don't think about the air until it starts getting taken away from us. Same thing with a fish. You take him out of water, now he knows. This is the separation that happens. I once had a swimming teacher that after we learned how to swim, she wanted us to swim the length of the pool under the water. We had a smart person in there, one of the young ladies that was she was a good swimmer. And she said, after we finished the exercise, she got up and she said, why do we have to learn how to swim underwater the length of the pool? We already know how to swim. What's that about? Taking all that time to learn that. And the teacher said it wasn't about just swimming underwater. She said, I wanted you to become accustomed to feeling what it feels like to be uncomfortable. Because when you have to swim underwater to lift of the pool, you start seeing some things different. You start feeling things. This doesn't feel too good. Some of the people didn't make it, you know. They came up. Not that they couldn't, but they just didn't like the feeling. And this is what we do in life. We pick and choose. I don't like this feeling, so I'm not going to do it. Then when we don't get the prize at the end, we wonder, how come that person's favored? Paying attention. We're asking you to pay attention to what's happening. This new moon, the polar opposite of Saturn is Jupiter. Both of these planets used to reign as godhoods in the astrological lore. Saturn was the older one, but he got dethroned by his son Jupiter, and Jupiter took over because he wanted to be expansive, whereas Saturn was always managing the situation. Some people call it micromanagement and contracting things and saying, this is mine, you can't have none of it. Jupiter wanted to do just the opposite. He wanted to give everything to everybody. And that planet now is in Leo, the sign of Leo, which is at a square aspect, and a square in astrology means there's potential for conflict because the energy is meeting at right angles. You have to know how to manage that, or there's going to be damage control afterwards. It's just that simple. There are always consequences to whatever choice you make, whether it's positive or negative. There are consequences. Some consequences aren't negative. And I'm sticking to all of the key words that we have because everything I'm saying is just a symbol. You know, you're listening, everybody's listening to the words I'm saying, but you're seeing different pictures and different scenarios come up. So you have to work with that, and maybe after I finish talking, you have some questions or some statements to make to me. Because I find when I have conversations with people, I hear myself saying one thing, and then they say something back to me, and I'm thinking, where did they get that from? And they say, well, you said it. I said, I don't think so. But I'm going to start carrying a little recorder around so I can prove to myself, because I could be wrong. You know, sometimes I don't pay attention. Who knows what's going on? If you're not looking, if you're not paying attention, anybody's gonna say everything. I said, this is my truth. And sometimes when people tell their truth, they want everybody to get in line with it. You gotta do it like I say. What is that about? Because what I'm gonna ask you is when you meet a person like that, you have drawn that person into your life. They didn't come unbeckoned. Because everybody doesn't meet that person. Just people that have that vibration meet that person.
That's right.
That's
If that
right.
person's meeting you, that means you got that vibration.
That's right.
What are you going to do with it? Because you are sitting in a place as a minister, you have that person's attention. But if you react to it, then you can't act proactively to it because you can't draw a circle and a square at the same time. You got to pick which one you want to do, and you have to pay attention to it. I love people who get into the reality of everything. They say it's humanly impossible. I haven't seen anybody do it yet. I've seen a lot of people try it. You know, you give them a pencil or a pad or whatever. And they'll be working hard, but it just doesn't work. And it's pretty much how we're built. You have to pay attention to what's going on. You have to make choices. You have the freedom of will to make a lot of choices. Now, all of us are human, but we don't use that attribute very often. You know, it's gotten so now in this year, what is it, 2014, it's almost like the only free will choice that we have now, because we've been around so long, we've been accustomed to liking this and not liking that, so we won't do this and we won't do that, that the only thing that we can really do that isn't encumbered by any past conditioning, any karma or anything like that, is to meditate. Because there's nothing to impel you to meditate. Nothing's going to make you sit down. It's not going to come out the sky. You're not going to get enlightened. You have to choose consciously, in and of yourself, that I'm going to set this time apart, that I just get to look at me. And I'm all of that. Like I told you, you have all the signs and all the planets, and they're at all these different angles, and they're always coming at you. And they're saying, what are you going to do with this? And somebody else looking at you, what are you doing? I'm paying attention. I said, what? What? They said, how do you do that? When I was over at that reading place the other night, if I had a quarter, well, I could even have a penny for how many times people ask me, how do you do that? And I said, well, you've been sitting with me for about, 10 minutes, and you only have 15 minutes. Then the next person's going to sit down where you're sitting. I said, and you're talking about the stuff that you can't do. And I said, I don't know why you're spending your time like that, but I'm here to show you. I'm a reflection of you. I said, don't think of me as a separate person. I said, I'm talking your thoughts so you can hear them real clear. And they said, what? I said, now you're getting close. I said, and this is how it goes. One young lady told me what I said. She out and said, I don't agree with what you said. And I said, well, that's your prerogative. That's good. I said, but let's look at it like this. I said, there's this big redwood tree. And I'm standing on one side of it, and you're standing on the other side. And I said, but I have special vision, and I can see through the tree, and I can see you. I said, you haven't developed that capacity yet. She says, how do you know? I said, because you're going through the things you're going through, and you're sitting here talking to me. That's simple. I said, that's not an argument. That's just the facts.
That's right.
And this is how we have to deal with ourselves. Don't cuddle people.
All right.
They come asking you a question, don't let them wiggle on it, because you're dealing with yourself. That's a part of you that doesn't want to take full responsibility. What is responsibility? It's another symbol. It's your ability to respond to a situation. That's all it is. And it's your choice whether you do or not. If you don't, there are consequences. If you do, there are consequences. Capricorn is about managing the situation. Doesn't care how it gets it done. People will look at it and say, well, you're acting like the devil. You tricked me. I say, time out. Where did you hear that from? Who told you about the devil anyway? Where did that information come from? Up here sometimes I'm talking to us as a group, and I say some challenging stuff, and people say, that ain't true. I said, how do you know? Well, because da-da-da-da-da-da. And I said, okay, did you read that in high school, college? Did you get it out of a book? Did you talk to the author? All I want to know is where you got the information from, and people usually can't tell me. And I said, yeah, you're going to stand up here and argue with me. I said, and I am suggesting to you that you don't have to believe it, but I've had the experience of what I'm talking about. You read it in a book. Which one of us do you think know more about it? That's all it is. And it's not about me, because I'm talking to myself. That's why I'm starting to get worried. Saying, why am I acting like this? What's going on? But most people say, that doesn't make any sense. I'm nothing like that person. I say, well, if I get this chart out, and I put all these plans in, and you got the same plans that they did. I said, how can you say you're nothing like them? Don't you see all these same symbols in both of these charts? Yeah, but they're arranged differently. I said, who cares about the arrangement? We're just talking about the ingredients. I say, it's all the same. You can arrange it any kind of way that you want. So you'll get a different vibration by putting this with that, but it's still the same material that you're working with. And that's all I'm saying. So to say that you're not connected, that's how we're all one. And if you want to reject it, you have the free will choice to do that. But then there are going to be consequences. And usually with people, and today it's interesting because you can look at the times that we're living in. Long time ago when people did things that were out of line, it took a little while for it to manifest, to materialize. But now, kids are getting diseases, illnesses that only old people get in the old days. And the doctors want to know what's going on. You know, people were talking to me the other day about their situations, their physical situations, and the doctor told them this and the doctor told them that. And I said, well, the doctor's doing his job. I said, he's paid to do his job. And then his job is to take that quarter out of your hand. I said, so if you want to give it to him, that's why you go there, isn't it? I said, because what he gives you doesn't heal you. And if you ask him, he'll tell you, it's going to treat you, you're going to have to do this for the rest of your life. So he's not looking to heal you. That's not his job. That's not why he's in that place. And this is nothing bad to be said about them, because that's how the system is set up. That's how it works. It's your choice to go there or not. That's right. And so they said, well, if I don't go there, where am I going to go? I said, you can go wherever you want. Remember, you got free will. You're exercising it with me. Now you're asking me questions. How did I become an authority? I said, I'm you. Why don't you ask yourself? Well, I'm reading this book. And I said, the book is good. I have nothing against the book. I have nothing against the author. I said, but we're sitting here having a conversation. You and I having a real conversation. And we can pass information back and forth between us. I said, you really don't know what that author was thinking about when he said what he said. I said, because whatever you read, you interpret it the way you want. That's your free will choice again. So if you had a chance to go talk to that author, he would probably say, you couldn't have read my book because I didn't say none of that stuff. But this is just the situation that we're in. The new moon is dark. You can't see it. When you look in the sky, you can just see faintly the line of light around it that the sun's reflecting that's coming through the earth. So it's dark, but every day more light shows up on the moon. And this is the process of our growth. We come from the darkness into the light, from the spirit into the light. Now the catch-22 is everything is light. And they said, what? I said, this is getting really good to be a conversation. I like it. What are we talking about? You can't see light. All you see is what light falls on. You see the reflection. That's how you see the moon, because it's reflecting the light of the sun. But you can't see the rays coming from the sun if you're out in space, because everything looks black. But it's filled with spirit, it's filled with light. But because you can't see it, I guess you want to be one of the disciples with Yeshua, like Thomas. He said, if I can't see it, I don't believe it. Maybe he's a scientist reincarnated today. They say pretty much the same thing. If I can't measure it, weigh it, touch it, it does not exist. I'm saying, wow, that's deep. I can't have a conversation with that person. You know, I'm not even going to begin to have a conversation with them because it's going to be contention between us. And it's not going to be because of me, because I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to stand there and look at them. And they're going to get all worked up because they're saying, well, this is the fact, this is the truth. I shared some information in one of our classes, you know, something that I found out about. And people looked at me and said, well, I think it's this. And I said, it's cool for you to think it's that. I said, but when you do the research and you get the experience, please come back and have a conversation with me because right now you're going on information that was given to you by somebody else. And I said, they probably weren't trying to hoodwink you, they just didn't know. And we get into a lot of these situations and conversations too. This is why I'm asking you how important it is to pay attention. Pay attention not just to what's being heard from the other person, I want you to hear what you're saying. Because a lot of times, and I was experiencing this the other day, the people that were talking to me, I'm giving them a reading, and they're telling me about their condition, but when they tell me about their condition, it's almost like they left their body. And they were just, I think they memorized what they were saying because they were like, and I'm saying, hello, can I ask you a question? And they're just rolling through and this and this and this and this and this and this. I said, stop. And then they're, what? I said, exactly. I said, what's going on right now? I said, we were having a conversation, but then you started this little, I said, I don't even know what it is. I don't have anything to call it. I said, were you aware that was going on? And then you see how the person looks when they start, you know, that guy was talking about on TED, the little man, their head goes back into the files, and he said, what is he talking about? Did I say that? Did I do that? And he looks in the file and says, oh my goodness, I did. Sometimes they do, sometimes they deny it. No, that wasn't me, I didn't say that. I didn't do that. You're imagining things. And I'm saying, this is me. I'm meeting myself when I'm saying, I've become so fine-tuned that I don't see it because I think I'm kind of smart, you know, and I can make it look like I'm doing what I'm not because I'm trying to get something too. What is that? I said, but if I'm not paying attention, I won't see that. And the only way that the Spirit works to get me to see it, it'll bring me somebody else. And I'll see them right away. I'll say, what are you doing? Exactly. The new moon, the winter solstice, shortest day of the year, complementary speaking, is the longest night of the year. No night so long, so dark, that people don't like darkness for some reason. They associate all kinds of negativities with being in the dark. But when you're in the Spirit, that's what it looks like at first, especially to us, when we manifest here on the planet. When we can't see anything, we say darkness. I can't see. I say, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you're looking at? What is it that you're missing? Well, how do I do that? I said, you haven't even told me what I asked you yet. Can you help me out? When people ask you a question, do you answer the question or do you tell them something else? And if you tell them something else, that's okay. But are you aware that you're telling them something else instead of answering their question? Because the fact that you were talking to them, it seems like, to them at least, that you wanted to have a conversation with them. But then all of a sudden, it becomes a monologue. You don't listen to anything they say. On top of that, you're not listening to anything that you're saying either, because you've heard it all before. You can do it in your sleep. Which brings us to the subject, since we're talking about night, waking and sleeping. One of my favorite movies, Inception. They put you in a dream. But they know that we're pretty clever and we can figure out that, hey, I'm asleep, this guy's trying to fool me. So he put you in a dream that's inside of that first dream. Now you really got to be sensitive and aware of what's going on. But the devil ain't going to take no chances, so he's going to put you in a third dream. Third level dream that's inside of the second dream that's inside of the first dream. And what will wake you up? Feeling. That's one of the attributes we have. We can feel things. That hurts. That'll wake you up in a minute. You have a nightmare? That's a feeling too. People wake up real fast, and that's, I don't want to see that. Turn the show off. I used to have a little nephew that, he didn't like violent shows, and he'd jump up and turn the television off. Everybody watching, get to the part that he didn't want to see. Click. I said, wow, what just happened? Can't ask him, he's too young to know what he's doing. You have to go inside. If you want to know yourself really good, if you really, really, really want to know yourself, you have to go out in the world and start looking at other people, start talking to other people, and see what they say to you. And if it sounds, some of it is shocking and amazing and unbelievable, a lot of times, now you're meeting yourself for real, for real. And the question is, what are you going to do with that now that you have your own attention? And that's the question, that's the what question I'm asking each one of you. Once you get your attention, what are you going to do with it? Because those other three things follow after you have defined the what. At the top of your chart, after you got to your partnership, you have the question why. Why all this took place. Some people want to know why on First Street. They don't want to go through the process. They want to go straight to, just tell me. Tell me what it is. I said, well, what are you going to do with it? I'll figure out something. I said, I'm sure you will. I said, but the catch-22 again is I'm responsible for giving you this information, and if you start messing stuff up, the first thing goes wrong, you're going to point your finger at me and say, he told me. And I'm going to think, yeah, he's right. So it's my responsibility what I give people, and this is what I'm giving you. This is your quarter. Don't let anybody take it away from you. Pay attention to what's going on. As the moon goes from new to full, and more light comes into your life, you have the opportunity to see what we call truth. And it's not just your truth, but it can become your truth, because you're going to choose to get back in line with what is, instead of just doing what you feel like doing. Because your feelings aren't really clear. They can become clear when you do the work. But it's pretty much a given. If there's anything that you don't like, that's your first diagnostic that your feelings aren't clear. If there's anything that you like more than anything else, your feelings are unclear. So we're not talking about good and bad, we're just talking about clear and unclear. And these, of course, are just symbols that you're going to have to figure out, because I'm sharing them with you as information, so you have to do the work. Each and every one of us have to do the work until we get to the full moon, raise our consciousness up, and we have the intention, and then we can do something with it. Thank you for listening.
Got a question. Got a question. Can I have that quarter?
This is our quarter. I hope it works.
Did you swim that underwater, under the pool, during that class? Did you swim all the whole pool underwater?
Yeah, the whole class had
You did? Yeah, but so you did it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And also, I want to talk a little bit about darkness, about what you were talking about darkness. Now, darkness, when the fetus and the embryo is in the mother's womb, they spend that whole 9 months in darkness until they come out into the light. Also, when you get a plant or anything that grows, it's underground and it's in darkness until it comes out over the ground. So basically, darkness is very important. When you sleep, it's good to be able to sleep in total darkness as opposed to having the TV on and having the light on, because darkness nourishes you. As you said, a lot of people are afraid of the darkness, but I think darkness is healthy. I think that a certain amount of darkness can be replenishing to your body, but a lot of people don't see it that way,
What was the question?
What was the question? Well,
Oh, that was the
that
statement.
was the statement. talking about darkness.
I'm just paying attention.
I was getting ready to ask the same thing. So I'm hearing myself talk here, but I'm going to get to it in a moment.
Right.
One part of your statement, I'm going to ask you a question and help enlighten me on. Darkness has a purpose, blah, 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 blah. All those things you said are factual, but, the child that's in the womb for that length of time that you were talking about, it doesn't have eyes to see, so it doesn't need, darkness becomes irrelevant to it, in a sense. And so in the context of our conversation of paying attention, the people outside know it's dark, but the child has
No consciousness yet, right? Concept.
right. So that's the question that Reverend Rodriguez was asking. So you told me all of that, and what am I going to do with that? You got my attention, but where do I go with this? And that's why I'm adding on this little part. And I said, along with that, since the child has no consciousness of light and darkness anyway, this must be for you some kind of way. And you're sharing it with me, so I appreciate that. But I'm now going to ask you, what did you get from that statement that you shared with us? That there's darkness in the womb. Because that's one of the mysteries of life. And you were speaking on it, and we want you to share the other part with us, because I don't know how many people in here got what he was saying, but I think now that I have got their attention going there, because this is what I'm doing with the attention, I'm going to ask you, so what do we do with that?
Darkness is like light, is a part of existence. Darkness has its place, light has its place. I think that before you can totally, fully, and really see the light, sometimes you have to go through darkness. I think darkness can be a learning period before you come out into a state of mind or a state of grace that will help to enlighten you. Now, there might be some people who are so enlightened they don't need to go through the darkness, but there might be a period for people who will, in order to fully develop mentally, they have to have a period of darkness and struggle, and then when they finally struggle and reach that point of enlightenment, they come out into the light. But as I said, light, darkness does have its purpose.
What is light for you?
Light can be knowledge.
And not what can it be, I want to know what it is.
Okay, but I think that light is knowledge. I think light can be water on a bush, or water to make a redwood grow that you were talking about. I think light is a way to bring you into total knowledge or enlightenment. Light is something which can take away the darkness. Light is something which can make us see what we couldn't see in the darkness.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Everything you said is true as far as you have said it. There are people, there have been people in existence who are blind. They can see a whole lot more than people who are sighted. So then that's going to challenge what you just gave us.
I'll give you a perfect example of what you're saying is true. Now, you take Ray Charles. Ray Charles, he could see a little bit before he became such a great musician and became famous all over the world. However, Stevie Wonder was blind since birth, but Stevie Wonder was able to come out with so much knowledge and so much music that it's known around the whole world for years, and he's still doing it. So I agree with you.
So your point?
That I'm agreeing with what he's saying.
So we're in alignment now.
Yeah.
That's an adjustment to what you first gave us.
Correct.
That's what we wanted to hear from ourselves. Very good. So are there any other questions or statements that you'd like to share with us?
Just what off of what you just said, it's kind of just made me think. With people who do have a limitation in one of their sensory areas, that they always have to substitute. And then people who feel like we have consciousness of all of our abilities. We, even with consciousness of them, don't have a heightened awareness of what their full capability is. So that's just a statement that came to my mind after you made the comment about people that are blind. And I started thinking how they may visually be unable to see, but they see with their ears, with their sensory, their other sensories. So that just made me think that of that. So I just wanted to share. It wasn't anything.
Thank you, it is.
No, but that's excellent, because I can smell something and know what it tastes like. And I'm sure other people have experienced it, yeah. And you can taste spirit, you can feel it, you can smell it, it's the same.
Yeah. So it's just, because with that being said, what he said about darkness, it made me kind of think, because I wake up in the morning like and there's always that like you go to the bathroom, you cut on the light, and when you cut the light, your eyes have to adjust back. And it's funny that you can see better when you haven't cut on the light. And when you cut the light off, then all of a sudden it goes really dark. And then you can see again, even though there is no light. So I just.
That's true, but we can extend that, because I always like to talk about sleeping, since we do so much of it. And actually, dreaming is the subject matter I want to look at. And it came to my attention that when I had a dream, actually my wife had a dream. And the next night, I had a dream with the same genre going on, but it wasn't the same place. And the next night, I had another dream, but it was the same genre going on. I'm thinking, like, what's happening here? So I started looking at it, because it was about, she saw me getting on a bus and going to her hometown. She's from Kenya. And she didn't know where I was going, so she said, you don't know anybody in my hometown, why are you on that bus? I said, that's a good question, I'll be looking at it. So the next day I had a dream that I was getting on the bus in Washington, going home. And the next day, I was on a bus, I was getting off the bus that was close to my home. And when I turned around, my sister got off the bus, but I didn't even know she was on it. And so it came to me that dreams give us information about the future. But since we don't know what the future is, we clothe it in the past. Things that we know about. I know about buses, I know about going places, I know what home is. But I didn't know what I was doing. So it's up to me to start becoming aware and attentive enough to transform those past images that I had, those past symbols. And this is like a conversation, because when you're talking to somebody, they're talking about whatever, but you don't really know what they're talking about until you start listening and you start seeing the things that they're seeing. Because in the beginning, you're going to see the things that you see. And that's just natural. But it may not be what they're talking about. You have to really listen. And this is where we get into what I was talking about, the liar to the left and the liar to the right. If you don't really get into the conversation, you don't hear what's going on, so it'll sound like the person is not telling you the truth. And most of us react when we think we're being lied to. And I'm just putting it out there for you to take a deep breath, calm down, and say, I'm not seeing what's going on here. I'm seeing something from the past, and I'm acting like it's happening right now. But it's not. The past is already done. It's finished. What's happening now, I do not understand. And that's why I have this big question mark. If I take the time to look, and after the question mark, I can probably put an exclamation mark, because the information is going to start coming to me just because I'm paying attention. It won't come if you don't ask. And asking is paying attention, which is what our subject matter was today, for real, even though we thought it was the solstice and the moon, and the sun, and the stars. It's all about us. It's always been all about us. And we have more of us than anybody in the world. We just have to become aware of it and then decide what we want to do with it.
And how did that play in when you said that you didn't know, when we said that we do know? Were you talking about your dream, in your dream you didn't know?
I did.
Because I was walking out and I just heard myself say, but you do know.
I didn't, when I first saw the dream, things weren't coming together for me. I knew I was on the bus, I knew I was on the bus.
In a dream.
In a dream. But when I woke up, and that's the transition part between our waking and sleeping. When we're asleep, we know things because we're doing them. And that's what I'm saying. When you're in the spirit world, you're actually doing something every night you go to sleep. Not just every night. Anytime you even take a second nap,
Right.
you're in the spirit world doing something. But you don't know what you're doing because you're not paying attention, you're not conscious. As the brother said here, you're in the dark. And so you don't pay attention, you just put it over to the side. So when you get to be about my age, 1/3 of your life, 20 years, has gone by.
In the dark.
In the dark, you have no consciousness of what happened. Yet, you were busy as I don't know what. The only time you're going to get to see that is after you leave the planet and you do your review time, and you're saying, my goodness, what was I doing? What was I thinking? I said, you weren't, actually. You're just going through the motions and not paying attention to anything because you're not asking. Every night, your dream is giving you, this is coming, get ready for it. Do you remember what was going on last night in your dream? Do you even remember dreaming? People tell me they don't dream.
Yeah.
I said, how do you know that?
Yeah, you do dream.
Everybody dreams every night.
night.
Every time you close your eyes and leave the planet, so to speak,
You dream.
you're dreaming. And there are different stages of it, but you're dreaming. And this is just information I want you to look at. I don't want you to accept my word like it's the gospel, because it's not. That's just my truth, and I want to share it with you. And I'm going to hold on to the court. Woo.
Yeah, man. Well, I want to thank you for giving me my reading. Yeah,
That's deep.
yeah, that was deep, man. I never had a reading like that before, because, you know, as I told you earlier, my birthday's Tuesday, so it's like everything's coming into alignment. It's like, and as I said to you, and as I shared with Rita, I said, man, I'm going through this vibrational period, man, which is kind of like functional / dysfunctional. How do I handle it all? You know, how do I get a grip? And the energy level is just so high. You know, and as I said earlier, all I want to do is just rest.
Yeah, but that's this energy now. It's just bombarding us from so many different.
I mean, all that's happened, you know, with the brothers getting killed over in grand juries,
Wake up call.
and the thing that just happened in New York yesterday, when the 2 cops got taken out. You know, like, whoa. You know, I was like saying, oh my gosh, you know. And it's like I'm at that point, like, you know, it's almost like, as I saw, there was a topic that said iPad, iPod, I pray. You know, and it's really this time right now, just get into a really deep meditative and prayer mode. Very prayerful. You know, and I appreciate all the things that God has done, man. But right now, it's just time for me to just like share.
Yeah.
Jupiter, that planet I was talking about, it happens to be retrograde. It happens to be, I'm just saying, it is retrograde. It looks like it's going backwards. And when a planet is in that appearance, it's giving you the opportunity to review all the good things that have happened over this last year, because it just went retrograde. At the same time that it goes retrograde, the planet that represents your intuition and the future, Uranus, is going direct. And so we're getting that overlapping energy, the vibration you're talking about, saying rise up and look back, look forward, look everywhere at the same time. And our soul nature, I'll qualify it by saying our lower soul nature saying it's too much. And it feels like it's too much, but that's just a feeling that isn't clear until you work on it with your thoughts. And when you start working on it with your thoughts, I guarantee you, you're going to reach a point that your thoughts don't come clear.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so then the next thing that kicks in is your intuition. Because you don't think about that, the information just comes, and this is what the practice of meditation is, to get you to stop thinking because you've been thinking long enough.
Too much.
They say, you need to now just take the information in, but they'll say, well, I don't see any information. I said, well, you haven't given it any time. You're so used to thinking, when it starts getting quiet, you start freaking out. You got to do something now. You got to bring somebody in that makes you feel good. That's what we do. Take the next step. Your intuition is going to become cloudy. Now where do you go? That's what partners are for. Where to in the spiritual realm do you go? And it's called inspiration. And people think that to be inspired, I don't know what they think it means. I don't even know what guess about somebody else thinks it means. But it's the next stage beyond intuition. When you talk about really knowing, your information and consciousness is totally inspired from that source that you were talking about with me this morning. And when you reach that stage, now is your free will choice. Do you want to stay here or not? Because you have your full attention.
How about that?
Have your full attention, and there are people looking for you that want to hear it. So you might feel drawn to leave. Because you say, I've done my work, I've done my homework, going home, like me, getting off the bus. I said, Dad, am I getting ready to die? I said, is that what I want? I said, it don't mean that at all. You're thinking too much. Shut the thinking down, let the information come in. David said, I got it. I got it. I'll be here a long time. Long time yet. All of us going to be here a long time. And you got a lot to share. And that was one of the things that really struck me about the people I was talking to yesterday. They didn't know how much information they would give to me. They weren't cognizant of it, or they weren't paying attention. You know, one guy was like beating himself up, and I said, stop. He said, stop what? I said, stop doing what you're doing. He said, I'm not doing anything. I said, if you stop and look, maybe you'll see it.
Go.
I said, you made this book writer almost God. Whoever wrote Course in Miracles, I don't know who wrote that book, but I said, the book is so-so to me. I said, got good information in it. Every book has good information in it. You just need to find it. I said, but you have at least as much as that guy because you ain't got his book. I said, he ain't looking to share nothing with you. He's looking to take you a quarter. I said, there's nothing wrong with that. I said, books are good. I read books more than anybody I know. The way I read them is though I get all kinds of insights. And I used to think they came from the author, but I never talked to many of those authors, if any of them. So I know it's coming from me. It's coming out of me. Some kind of way the person that wrote that book put the words in a way that it made me see things differently. It made me choose to see things differently. The knowing part of me saying, this is what you need to know, go here. I asked a young lady, she was having a physical challenge, and she sat down there and said, after she was jumping all over the place in the chair, I said, time out. I said, answer this one question before we go any further to your reading. I said, why are you here? She said, why did I come into this building? Because they're going to have all these Reiki healers. And I said, I understand that. I said, but why did you come sit at my table? I said, I know you don't know the answer. It's not cognizant to you. I said, but I want you to look at why you came to sit here and didn't. I said, there's an intuitive leader right there. I said, you didn't go to her. I said, I just want you to look at that. I said, I don't want you to think about it. I want you to look at it. And that's why I'm putting all these, my shared experiences with you people. For you to look at things that you've been doing. People that you've been with or chosen not to be with. We have to look at it, because if we don't look at it, we're not paying attention. And we're going to lose something that we think is very valuable, but it's not valuable enough for us to pay attention. So then how much value do we really have? It's our choice. And we're calling the shots. We're saying what it is and what isn't.
Brother David, I know that I've had conversations with you, and there have been times that it was hard to take it. And I laughed when you said, sometimes when I'm in the class, I'm like, I know I'm one of those people, but I do respect what you say. There may be times when I may not be able taking, Dorita, I say this to her all the time, especially when you say, when it was said that when you're having an issue with someone, you're seeing yourself. And I know I said, I joked with her yesterday, I'm just gonna put it out there. I said, you know what, Dorita, I'm going back to the church. I'm like, y'all getting on my damn nerves. Put it out there. Okay, I'm transparent. But then I thought about it, I'm like, hell, they like that too, but they just don't know. I said, at least you bring it to, and then, yesterday was a great day for me because I went nowhere. I didn't go, I was able to just sit in quietness. My cousin was gone, it was just me and the dog, And I like you said to me sometimes, like, okay, you might can't see it now, but it'll come to you. And then you gotta come back like with your tail tucked. But no, that's just a figure of speech. But I just, wanted to acknowledge that I really do appreciate. I enjoy when you're in our class, and I enjoy talking to you one-on-one.
Well, thank you.
And I want to get my reading at some point.
I enjoy it too. You just stimulated a story that this guy is an astrologer. He used to watch transits, and people wonder how does astrology work.
Right.
And it's through people who sit down, they do the chart, they figure out something's supposed to happen. They don't know what. They know what the planet means, they know where they are, they know what they're doing, but some kind of way it's not clear to them what's supposed to happen. So this guy said, well, this is a challenging aspect. Something's going to happen to me that day. So he cleared his calendar. He said, I ain't going out. I'm not going to go outside. I'm not going to talk to nobody, nothing. He's going to sit in his house and wait. So then the son came over to the house about 20 minutes before the aspect was exact. And then at the minute that the aspect was supposed to happen, nothing. And so this guy he was really upset. He said, dang, did I miscalculate? Did I do something wrong? And as he was saying that, he heard somebody say, fire! So his son run out of the house, and when they look around, his house is on fire. He was so happy he started writing notes. His house burned down. So this is the thing about once you have the attention, what are you going to do with it? He was sharp enough to figure out that something was coming, something was going to happen. His house wasn't insured, so he lost everything. But he was happy, because now he proved to himself that astrology works. But then that's kind of the thing. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen before it happens. And that's the knowing and unknowing. I believe that veil falls on us because that's not given to you until you raise your consciousness. And then you can truly embrace saying, I know. Because then you see and know whether it's dark or not. And so that's probably that cloud of unknowing that people talk about a lot. And when they say, I don't know, they're really unconscious, even though they're correct.
Right.
They're looking into that. Y'all are taking in a lot of information today. So congratulations, give yourself a big hand.